Well, I'm Mr. Fix-It, also known as Steve Maxwell, and I'm here with blue.living.com, and I want to show you a simple but fairly common plumbing problem and how to deal with it. I want to show you how to change the cartridge in a leaky faucet, and that could be a kitchen faucet like here, or bathroom, bathtub, shower. Different configurations are going to look different on the outside, but the basic procedure is the same. And no matter what you're dealing with, step one is to shut off the water. Because if you're taking the cartridge out, that's the thing that holds the water back when you don't want it to flow, you have to hold the water back before it gets there. So ideally, you will find some valves underneath or nearby somehow, and in this case, there are a couple of valves, one for hot, one for cold, under the sink. Occasionally, you might have a fixture where there's no local shut-off valves available. In that case, you're going to have to shut off the water to your whole house. But one way or the other, that water's got to be shut off before you can continue. Now, the faucet I'm working on here is a single lever style, so hot and cold can be controlled from the one lever. The procedure I'm showing you here will also work just the same for faucets that might have two valves. The first thing to do is look at this, and you're going to notice there's nothing really obvious that we can loosen or undo in order to get into it. And that's almost always the case. But this top of the faucet here, that's the key, and that's where you start. There are two kinds of caps. This is just a decorative cap. This one happens to just push in, and I'm going to show you how I take it out. Others unscrew, so they would loosen off counterclockwise. And you can tell the difference because the ones that unscrew will have a metal rim around the edge, so you can grab it with a pair of pliers. This one has no metal rim, so I know it's one of the kind that you just pry. And a little kitchen knife does a good job there. You just kind of work it in underneath, and voila, there you go. Now we can do something. We can loosen something. This little machine screw here holds the lever handle on in place, and so that's the first thing we need to take off. And if you're lucky, it just unthreads. Sometimes if they're really old and corroded, it might give you some trouble, in which case you'll want to put on some penetrating oil, let it sit for at least a few hours, and that can help you remove the corroded fitting. So this is a small part, and I really don't want to drop it and lose it and have it go down the drain, so I'm going to just put it in a safe spot to one side. Now this lever handle should just lift off. Let's just see. There we go. It did. It might take a bit of wiggling in order for it to come off. It all depends on how long it's there and how corroded it is. But another valuable part that I'm just going to put to one side. Now these things here, the silver decorative ring, that's got to come off as well. And in every case that I've ever seen, it just unthreads like that. So now we're getting down to business. This is the cartridge here. This is the stem of the cartridge, and you can see the top of it here, and then the rest of it disappears down below. What you'll need in almost every case is some kind of an adjustable wrench to loosen this off. In this case, I can see there's a nut-shaped thing here, and that's got to come off in order to release the cartridge. You do not want to use a pair of pliers on this because you're going to chew it up. Pipe wrench is also not very good. It tends to chew things up as well, but an adjustable wrench is perfect, and the wrench just goes on the flats of the nut. But you want those jaws to grip the top of this nut as firmly as possible. So as you're tightening the adjustable wrench, which is what I'm doing now, you want to wiggle it back and forth a little bit so you get the maximum amount of tightening on that. And now we're ready to loosen it. Now, as with most things in the world, it loosens counterclockwise. Occasionally things loosen the other way, but almost never. So I'm going to put a little pressure on. Yeah, there we go. Not too hard at all. And there we go. That's another precious part I will be using again. This is the cartridge. This is that replaceable valve I was telling you about. And in modern faucets and fixtures, when it drips, this is the culprit. And the whole thing is meant to be changed. There are countless cartridges in the world, and you have to get the right one. I mean, literally, there could be hundreds of different kinds. So what you want to do is shut your water off, take the cartridge out, and then if at all possible, take this to the store with you so that you can compare it. Now, I do have a new one here. This is the same thing, and it's going to do a good job for us. These cartridges last for years without leaking, but there is something else you need to know as well. As I said, this is a Kohler. Other brands have the same arrangement of a lifetime warranty on these things. So I've actually had this tap for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years. I've changed the cartridge 3 or 4 times. I've never had to buy one. I just simply call them up on their hotline, tell them what kind of tap I have, and in the mail I get another cartridge. So something to keep in mind, you might not have to pay for cartridges. Check before you actually go to a store and lay out cash, because if you want, you can buy these cartridges the same way if you don't know that you can get them free sometimes. Now here's one other thing. When you take a valve out sometimes and the water is shut off, it's not unusual for a little bit of water to keep coming out. And what's happening there is water that was in the neck of the faucet now can flow back through and come out. So don't be alarmed if a little bit of water comes out for, say, 5 or 10 seconds. If water keeps coming out and it doesn't seem to stop, then your shut-off valve probably isn't working properly. You still have a flow of water coming out. But now let's get the new cartridge in place and get this thing buttoned up and see how it works. This is the new one. This is the old one. You can see there's a difference in color there. Is that of concern? Well, no. The main thing is that the part number be the same, and you can see that there and that there, the same numbers. So it should work just fine. Now also, in this particular case, and it's going to vary, there's 2 little nubbins there that stick out. Well, they correspond with holes in the actual fixture. So you can't just put it in any way around. You actually, in this case, there's some holes back here. Not the holes that the water flow through, but holes that those little nubbins engage with, so that the valve is oriented correctly. There we go. You see how that went in like that? So we're good. And time to put this back on. Now, I've worked on this enough that I've already put on some Vaseline here on the threads. I strongly recommend that because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier next time when you need to remove this to replace the cartridge. The Vaseline will stop corrosion, but it's not dirty and it's not smelly. It just works. Now, here's another tip. This is a great big wrench. I could completely crack that valve to smithereens if I over tightened it. You don't want to tighten it too much. You don't have to. You don't have to, because there are O-rings on the bottom that do the sealing. So there, just about what you can push with one finger. That's plenty right there. Next step is the decorative ring goes back on. Once again, some Vaseline on those threads. You will thank yourself next time when it comes time to change that again. And then we just put that back on. Yep. Now it's not flowing because I don't have the water turned on yet, but it is working properly. I've put the handle on in the correct position. Just to make a really obvious mistake, if I had put it around some other way, whoops, that's not working. That's the wrong way around. So you need to pay attention to how it goes together. That's the way it's supposed to be. And then we've got that little screw that holds the faucet handle in place. If, when you're putting something like this together, it does not thread in finger tight and easily, it means you're doing what's called cross-threading. And if you continue, maybe with a screwdriver, because it doesn't go in easily, then you're going to be hurting the threads and really ruining your faucet. So it's got to go easily before you get to the tightening part. And once again, I mean, this is a finesse job here. You don't need to tighten it like crazy. Just snug it up. And we've got the tap handle in the middle. We don't want to have our decorative button, you know, with the words at an angle or anything like that. So pay attention. And there you go. Now, I'm going to go under the sink and turn those valves back on, and let's see how the water flows. So the water's turned back on. I like what I'm seeing here. I'm not seeing any drips. That's a very good first sign. But I also want to test things. So there we go. That's hot and cold together. That's cold only. That's hot only. Successful repair. All done. Are you wondering about how to fix anything around your home, big or small? Send us your question at editor@bluedotliving.com, and we'll do our best to answer you.